You know, when I think about the mini stories from all the entertainment media that's available to us common folk, sometimes I find greatness in the form of light novels, random webcomics, manga, and the occasional video game with the main stories. And sometimes it's the stories that are outside the main stories of those video games. For instance, did you know that Kirby, yes, that Kirby, had an underlining lore that spanned his early days on the Super Nintendo? Pausing the screen sometimes will enlighten the player with a small tidbit of information, and every subsequent Kirby game hides their lore somewhere, whether it's in the pause screen or little in-game figurines you win from a gacha machine. The little bits of story is usually hidden away and not very popular until someone talks about it on YouTube. For Final Fantasy XIV, the story is usually on its sleeve, but there are some hidden things in 14 that doesn't get shared too heavily. When it came to the main story, it was like a law to never talk about it unless it was a topic literally everyone was in the know about. For me, I want to find the stories everyone missed, theories that may rack your brain and spread the joy of mystery when talking about the universe that started in Final Fantasy I. I wanted to make a narrative people would find interesting, much like how VaatiVidya stirs up the Dark Souls community every time the dude sneezes out lore on the internet. It'll be hard, since spoilers is a much hated thing in Final Fantasy XIV, but I promise I'll find the stories people likely missed and have everyone thinking when I throw out some theories the community can argue over. You know, I just got this book that took almost a year for me to get, the Encyclopedia Eorzea number 2, and it made me realize there are still stories out there that even I don't know. There's some things that I didn't know, that this book that I've read nearly twice now, that I did not know. And it brings me a little bit of hope that perhaps if I pushed even a little bit further, pushed just harder on you guys on how there are stories behind stories, then perhaps lore in Final Fantasy XIV and just Final Fantasy in general will be paid attention to this time. Who knows? Here's hoping. But this is basically another chapter of my life when it comes to lore and this dang video game, and I'm glad you guys are here with me for this. So, enjoy the show, and enjoy the new intro. Hey, before we get this video started, just like to remind you all to sub and like if you enjoyed the video, and if you liked what you saw, hit up that bell for future notifications, and if you're feeling real generous, please check out my Patreon for support that's only $1 a month. Patrons get access to sneak peeks at my future video projects, can make suggestions on said videos, and will have their names show up at the end of my videos. Thanks for watching, and enjoy. This road was once a connecting point for Dravanian and mankind. Once was a peaceful accord, was then turned asunder when Thordan I and his knights struck down Ratatoskr More on that later. Sohm was once the highway for man to make their way to the summit and meet the Dravanians in the far skies above the world. It is now home to occupying creatures and dragon kind who are not too keen with man at the point of ascension. Translated as promised slumber in dragon speak, Sohm is not just a road to the churning mist, but a crypt and resting place for the Dravanians, a holy place that was once decorated by man to honor the fallen dragonkin. Now, in order to not spoil any of the story in Heavensward, I will be sparse with the detail as to how it came to be you journeying up the mountain in the first place. I will also speak of need-to-know facts for some of the Warrior of Light's encounters. For instance, I will only refer to the bosses by their names, while not spoiling who they are entirely. But since the bosses are not very important in this video, I won't have to elaborate on who or what they are. 14 story at this point may be part of the free trial up to level 60, and anyone can experience this content for free, but spoiling is a major no-no in the community, so I will respect that. So moving forward, let's talk about the function and major history Sohm has in the world of 14. Well, as I said before, this place is sacred to the Dravanian, and is the resting place for their dead, as you may not have been aware with all the bones within the mountain. They have a few sections that reflect certain burial sites, the red crypt for dragons who were affiliated with the element of fire, and blue who are affiliated with the element of ice. It is speculated that there are other elemental crypts within Sohm, but the Warrior of Light never goes through them to reach the summit. You actually meet both a fire dragon and an ice dragon on your way to the peak. You fight them in their respective crypts, but either one does not invade the other, so the ice one doesn't go into the fire and the fire doesn't go into the ice, perhaps respecting their dead as a means of honoring them. There is also a section where there is no element for the crypt, but it can be seen that man did have some sort of monument or structure built here to honor the dead dragonkin who they were back in the day at peace, now in ruin, perhaps in retaliation to their betrayal. History is very much shown as soon as you enter their sacred grounds. Statues in the shape of dragons and buildings and pieces lined on the outside of some of the arenas. The statues themselves also showed that man really did try for peace when it was offered from the Dravanians. Unfortunately, due to events headed by King Thordan, he ultimately provoked the downfall of the relationship man once had with dragonkind. The events in Heavensward will tell all, but what you do need to know is that the fight between him and Ratatoskr also sparked the 1,000-Year War. As to why the fight still ensues is up to the players of 14 to find out. Now back to Sohm. This road also has a deep connection with both lands that sit next to this sacred domain, the Dravanian Forelands and the Churning Mists. The former having a significant role as it also houses the sacred burial ground for all of dragonkind, Morn, though it's possibly better to say the road to the sacred burial ground. Morn is infested with scavengers who feed on weakened dragonkin if they can't make it to the top of Sohm. This is seen as a bit of frustration for the dragonkin, as old and dying dragons would use the last of their strength to go through Morn and try to make it to Sohm. To the dragonkin who do not make it, they are left to nature, either to become rotted corpse and bones where they lay, or to be taken by the scavengers who hunger for dragon meat. Some make it and some don't. To those who don't make it, they are mourned here in Morn, thus the name. Still sacred as it is the road to a dragonkin's final destination, Morn was honored by dragon and man alike, thus the pillars you see within the caves. Within Morn are two structures, Halo and Annex Old, the former being a statue which was supposed to have a woman and a dragon, now only having the dragon as the woman has not survived the test of time, or more likely violently removed due to past events. Annex Old seemingly was not touched, a statue portraying the limited life of man, while dragonkind essentially live forever. This statue is a way to show how man laments having a finite life compared to their dragon brothers. You can tell that during the time of peace, Morn was much respected and possibly maintained, as a bridge is seen here for man and dragonkind to cross, and decorated structures to seemingly honor the last life of a dragon. Morn also shows that dragons aren't eternal. It shows that even dragons can die and even get old. Some even say that through Sohm or even Morn, one returns back to the mother, or Hydaelyn in this case. Both Morn and Sohm is a reminder of how close man was with dragons back when times of peace persevered. When looking at the dungeon itself, you can tell that history between man and dragon was deep. The road you walk on from bottom to top was created for those who wish to make their way to the churning mists and visit the Dravanians. The structures that survived the rage of the dragons show that they took care to carefully make a lasting and strong foundation for what is deemed sacred. However, the rage of the Dravanian horde is also at full display. The ruins broken and burned in several spots, pillars filled with claw marks, no doubt filled with despair fueled by their angered sire. All of this in just one dungeon, and even the song Slumber Eternal is a reflection of the malice the Dravanian horde still has for man. You are literally charging through a horde while the dragon can still remember for what the Ishgardians have done, and all of that is heard through an army-like march reflected through the song, being a rendition of the peaceful music of the Dravanian forelands, for which portrays the peace Volgar wishes to maintain. The March Up the Mountain throws you into the fray and tells you you are in their territory and they will not let you pass without a fight. I love this piece so much, it's a favorite of mine on Spotify. Sohm did an excellent job portraying anger, determination, and hope all in this piece of music. Let me know if you guys think Slumber Eternal is one of your favorites down in the comments. Oh, and even more, tell me what you think of the dungeon and the story surrounding it. A path for which all must go through. All must pay their respect to the fallen and old dragonkin that lived their lives on this star. A road that was once a place man respected but has become a reminder of man's folly. This is Sohm All, the promised sleep for all dragonkind. Sohm da fa la jran. Ale ilos giaern. On ale kash yi task ethal sjas. No do.